Hello friends, I welcome you to this new session on basic course of real estate project registration in Maharera. We started the session on 10th of June 2024 and we will be ending after 22 sessions. Today you have a presenter who will take up the issues and then a question answer will be there at the end. This session we had to organize because we were receiving a lot of requests across India from the chartered accountant who want to enter into the new area of practice to start this basic course so that they can enter into the advanced courses. We have conducted n number of advanced RERA courses, number of books on RERA has been done, and cooperatives, redevelopment, GST, income tax, NPO, cooperatives, so many programs have been done. So this is the opportunity for you to comment, give us the suggestion so that we can do the course. Similarly, we are also agreed to take up so many courses physical at different places, residential programs. So whatever you want, if we get more than 20 to 25 participants, we will be happy to host that program. Our aim is to empower each one of you to enter into area of practice, and wherever you get difficulties, we are there to help you.
So hello all and a very good evening to each one of you all. So all the participants who have joined today. Today we have the RERA study circle meeting also which is going on currently. So that is why a lot of participants are there offline which is present. But still to continue with the session and to keep the session going on, we'll continue with a seminar today, with a lecture today. And today's topic is the deregistration of project and extension of project. And we have with us two RERA experts who have been dealing into this matter of deregistration as well as extension, and our RERA leaders also. Firstly, it is CA Karan Mehendirata, and who is practicing in Nasik and has been into RERA since its inception, and has done a lot of deregistration as well as extension of project. Together, we have done a lot of deregistration together also. And we have with us a new speaker for the first time, CA Aditya Gautam. He is also from Nagpur. I'm sorry, Karan is also from Nagpur, and CA Aditya is also from Nagpur. And he'll also be giving us his expert opinion regarding all the this deregistration as well as extension. So I welcome both the panelists today, CA Karan Mehendirata and CA Aditya Gautam.
Thank you, Shreyas.
Thank you so much for joining. I'll give a brief introduction about the whole topic, which is deregistration as well as extension. Normally, the deregistration happens if in case the compliances are not adhered to, or if supposingly for some reason the promoter feels like they want to deregister their project, transfer the project to some other promoter, or if they're not able to complete the project within the given timeline, they might deregister their project. Or if there is some other differences in the partnership firm or something like that, so they might deregister the project. And of course, a lot of time the project cannot get completed within the deadline, so they extend the project also by taking consent of allottees. Today we'll of course be discussing that thoroughly in detail. So firstly, before we begin with the presentation and I give the mic to CA Karan, Aditya, if you can just give a brief about the whole extension project and when does an extension of a project be required in the project?
Okay, so as per RERA, two sections दिए गए हैं, Section 6 and Section 7 subsection 3. Section 6 allows us for extending the real estate project for a period of up to 1 year. वहाँ पे कोई ज़्यादा अपने ऊपर में कंडीशंस नहीं रहती है प्रोजेक्ट एक्सटेंड करने के लिए, एंड इफ वी एक्सीड दैट लिमिट देन वी हैव एन ऑप्शन इन सेक्शन 7 सबसेक्शन 3. तो वहाँ पर अपने ऊपर में कंडीशंस रहती है. तो सबसे पहले तो हमें ये प्रमोटर को ये प्रूव करना पड़ता है कि द रीज़न कि आपका प्रोजेक्ट क्यों डिले हुआ है, एंड उसके साथ साथ में क्योंकि अलॉटीज की भी राइट्स वहाँ पे हैम्पर होती है, तो उनका हमें कंसेंट लेना रहता है, द मेजॉरिटी कंसेंट विच इज 51% एंड अबव. और अगर वो भी नहीं कर पाते हैं हम, तो प्रमोटर को फिर जितने कंसेंट मिलते हैं वो उसके साथ में एक एक्सप्लेनेटरी स्टेटमेंट की वाई ही कुडंट. या सो डिटेल में अभी प्रेजेंटेशन में हम देखेंगे कि कैसे उसका डिटेल प्रोसेस है, कौन से फॉर्म्स हमें फिल करने पड़ते हैं, क्या फॉर्मेट्स रहते हैं उसके.
बिल्कुल. So I think so in the meantime, now that we are going to the presentation part, CA Karan, if you can also give a brief about the whole extension, what all sections are required, how much consent is required. Aditya has of course given us a brief about the whole thing. आप भी अगर कुछ add on करना चाहते हो उसमें?
So I believe that the participants are aware of basic sections of RERA, and in RERA there is given section 6 which is dealing with extension exhaustively, and the But the issue is with it that the department can increase by 1 year through force majeure issue. But if the real estate developer feels, or if he has some issues in this project, he can extend the project further through section 7.3. And there are many circulars which have came, which I'll discuss in the PPT later, in which you can take the extension with consent, without consent, how you can take, what the forms you have to fill. These all the details we'll discuss in the next upcoming time. And I've created a beautiful slide to you to get to know the brief facts. And basically what we in our practice, which we believe, is that the authority can also pass a section or an order through a power if they have that power. So I'll discuss many issues with you in the next slides, in which you will understand that whether they have the power, or if they don't have the power, how they can make an amendment to that section. So this is what extension is.
Yes, of course. Yes, thank you so much, Karan. Like before we begin with the presentation, uh, Aditya, I have one question to you. If you can help the participants to understand that. Ki whenever we are doing any extension of any project kind of a thing, how is the interest of the allottees ensured and protected when there isn't any extension of project? How is that
Yeah.
ensured that all the allottees' interests are protected as such?
Focus of RERA is always about securing the interest of the allottees. So even in while extension, they will be first they ask for the consent of the allottees if they are giving the consent. If the consent is less than 51, then there is an explanatory statement for that. Other than that, they can ask for a detailed construction timeline from the promoter, that how he is going to construct the said project. Other than that, they can ask for financial guarantees also, or a third party monitoring system can also be in place to ensure that the project is completed and the rights of the allottees are secure.
Of course. With this, I hand over the mic to Karan. In the meantime, Karan, if I may, whether you'll be starting with extension first or deregistration part first?
We'll be starting with deregistration. First, I'll be
Okay,
starting
okay.
with some questions with the participants.
Yeah. So one question has been asked, but that is regarding the extension part. So first, because we are dealing with deregistration, let's start with the presentation.
The topic is deregistration and extension. I request all the participants to keep their chat box open. I'll be reading the chat box and the queries of yours. First, tell me something which I am aware, or I may not be aware, that how much section you have covered till now. I believe you must have covered the basic sections.
So we have covered all the basic sections regarding registration of a project. That all is covered, and what are the compliances which has to be done, and everything we have covered.
Basically, I'll just have a brief overview with the sections which we have already covered. Let's say in section 3, which is a prior registration of real estate project, and let's say it's an eligibility criteria for entering into RERA, even though this section is clearly defining the exemptions from RERA. But for your, just have a mindset in your mind that this is an eligibility criteria to enter into RERA Act. Like if you have a land of more than 500 square meter and more than 8 units, these are the exemptions which are given. But once these conditions are satisfied, you enter into RERA. Then section 4 is giving the application of full application process of full real estate project. And section 5 is grant of registration. Section 6 extension, which we'll be studying right now. Section 7 revocation of registration, in which the authority will cancel your registration number. Section 8 is an obligation of authority upon lapse. Once the registration is lapsed, the authority has their own guidelines in which they will intimate to the all respective authorities that their registration is cancelled. Then section 8, 9 and 10 deal with the agents. Then we have chapter 3, which deals with the duties and functions of promoter. So these are the basic few. I'm just giving you the name of the sections which I've already covered. So my question with you, which arises by reading these section, is that nowhere in the Act MARERA is given there is a section for deregistration. If you just read the law, if you read all the sections in MARERA, there is nowhere written in the Act that you can deregister a project once it is registered. So why this situation of deregistration arises, then I'll discuss in the next slide. Why MARERA at present is the only place where deregistration of project is taking place, whereas there are other authorities also which have not yet given any guidelines for deregistration. That also I'll explain in the next slide. First, let us understand one thinner line of concept of consent, which I'll be using in the next slide. So I'll be there is an LOT consent which we take. So if you remember in your back days, there are in corporate laws there are two types of resolution. One is special and one is general. Special resolution always covered 75%, whereas general resolution always covered 51%. So there are four places wherein Maharera were two in rules, two in act, where the consent is taken, and there are consent with two-thirds of the consent, and there is consent of majority of votes. So whenever the majority of votes have been given by Maharera, you always believe that it is 51%, and whenever they say two-thirds of the consent, they always say 75%. So this is the basic thing which we need to understand. Section 14 and 15 deals with the special consent which we will deal, and in rules, since if you see, I told you that there is section 6 in which the extension is given, extension of section. But if you want to go beyond the 1 year of extension, you have to take the assistance of section 7.3. So section 7 is revocation of registration, in which section 7.3 deals with section which clearly says that Maharera authority can extend the period of registration if they feel that the project requires, and you can take the help of section 3 to get the registration. There is a proper guidelines have been passed by Maharera in which the extension can be taken. Now in rules, Maharera has given in rules the deregistration. So in the deregistration, how many consent we have to take, I'll discuss in further. So just have a brief view that whenever I say two-thirds of consent, it is 75%, or whenever I say majority of votes, it is 51%. This is the basic terminology used in MAR. So deregistration of project and the activities to be done under RERA. Let us understand the scenarios why the deregistration has came out. Let's suppose that I'll discuss one scenario in front of you, that there is a project which I started today, and 1 year has been passed out. I have not received any LOT, in which in my back end, my mindset was if I received at least 30% of the LOT in the first year, I'll be able to complete the project. 1 year has been passed, my project has completed till first floor, and I have not received a single LOT. So I am having I'm not having a view. I have concluded in my mindset that the project is not going to prosper further because I have zero LOTs at my project. Since I have zero LOTs, Maharera has given us the privilege that you can use deregistration process, in which you can apply for a deregistration if you have a zero LOT. Now there is second scenario which comes to you. Now you must have heard in section registration of project, while reading the registration of project, that last year 25A passed, and Maharera has said that more than 500 square meter of land and more than 8 units, both the condition has to be satisfied to register under RERA. But these are not the conditions for other states. This is only for right now in Maharashtra. Both the condition has to be part.
Currently, if I'm sure in other states, the word is given as or, right? That either it has 500 square meters or 8 units.
Yeah, in our state, the three judge bench was seated. Among the two judge passed the order that the Maharera has to consider the or as and in the act, and that's why the circular came. So there may be in future, then the circular may come that you treat or as or. So there may be come in future that you have to register projects. So you have to keep updated in that sense. So assume that circular came in the month of July, and in the month of June, I registered because my plot size was less than 500 square meter, but my number of units were more than 8. Like I was building a project in 2000 square feet of land, and I have 12 units in that project. I registered in RERA because it was mandatory for me to register at that time. And in July, the Maharera passed the circular that now you're not required. You can take the exemption. And the builder has now made the view that, you see, if I continue with the RERA, the compliance cost and the other cost of the RERA is too high. So I'll prefer to get deregistered. Whether he can go or not go, I'll discuss in further. There is one more scenario I'll place in front of you. Let's suppose if there is a builder who has 10 LOTs in the first year. It's a huge project of 100 crores. He has on the day of launch after getting the RERA registered, he has received money from 10 allottees. And the building is completed only till plinth. There is no further development has been taken place. Since land cost, the cost of any real estate project, you know that majority of 30% of the cost is already incurred till plinth level, and the other costs start after the plinth. Builder is of the view that if I continue with the project and if the allottees are at the same space that I'm getting, I won't be able to complete on time. First, second, I may get financial losses of interest, the fund which I'll be blocking in the real estate project. So he want to back off from RERA. But since there are allottees, whether he will be able to go for it or not, that we'll discuss. So these are the three scenarios which I have presented you in front of you. One, the project is covered under RERA as per Act, but there are no allottees. Second, the project is covered under RERA Act, but there are allottees. And third, the project is exempted under RERA Act, but you have taken the registration. So in all these three scenarios, you can take the deregistration process. There are other scenarios also which have taken place in Maharashtra. Like there was one scenario in which the project was of 5 phases. 5 towers were going to form, in which 2 towers were purely commercial and 3 towers were residential. The builder applied for RERA phase wise for each tower. So when he applied for RERA, the GST department came in the picture and they said that since your number of units as per carpet area is more than 15% in the first phase, the GST will be applicable at the rate of 12%. So Prabhu sir himself has taken that case and he deregistered the whole project and registered the full project again with the one project. So there may be scenarios which can come in your life. There may be scenarios which have not yet come but may come in your practice. So if you get those scenarios, do let me know for my cases also. But these are the issues which Maharashtra was facing, that there are scenarios where deregistration is required, but the hurdle was there was no provision in the act. So
Yeah, Karan, like you mentioned, like there is no section which covers the deregistration process as such. No
Yes.
consent form, no application. There is no guidelines
Yes.
as such regarding deregistration.
yes.
Registration and everything. Of course, our
So
course is related to
see,
registration.
what I'm
Yes,
saying
Karan.
is that deregistration, there is no provision in the act which gives deregistration power, but Maharashtra has came up with the deregistration through sections, through the powers which were vested in other sections, which
Of
were
course.
not directly with deregistration. So I'll discuss in the further slide. So I've shown you the scenarios, the three scenarios which I mentioned. Since there was no section in the RERA Act empowers a real estate project, there was no rules also, there was no specified rule in the RERA Act which empowers the authority to register. So authority came with this section, that section 34, which is functions of authority, in which the first para says the function of authority shall include to register, regulate real estate projects and real estate agents registered under this act. So this was the first line. If you read the preamble of RERA Act, the preamble itself says that it has came to regulate and register the real estate industry. So this through this particular section, the provision, Maharashtra has taken that power and it says to register and regulate the real estate projects, we do hereby giving the we do hereby passing the order. So it just for order number 42 2023 in February 23 came. So there is also one more thing which I would request, which I would ask you to observe, that this order came in the month of February 23, 2023, almost 4.5 months before when the order of July 25A, which was passed, which says that 508 flats are annexed. So this order was passed 4.5 months prior that. Maharashtra was already having issues in which they were required to do the deregistration of projects. So they came up with this particular order in which they have clearly said, if you just read the second para, and whereas under section 34 of the act, one of the functions of the authority is to register and regulate real estate projects. And whereas there are instances where promoters have registered their real estate project and are unable to commence and complete the construction of the same. So that's why they have came. So if you just read the last line, In such cases, keeping this real estate project as a project registered with Maharera will serve no fruitful purpose nor would be beneficial to any stakeholders. So that's why they came up with this particular order in which they said that there have been instances which they have seen in which deregistration is required. And I'm telling you, my friends, these both sections, deregistration and extension, if you have a specialty in these two sections itself, it's as much revenuable item than the registration. Many people must have think that this is a byproduct, but this is actually the main. This is almost the same main product which you can have in your professional life, because people have, since Maharashtra, we have highest number of registration. There are projects which are stalled. There are projects which have lapsed. Almost more than 5,000 projects are right now lapsed or stalled. You can see it in Maharashtra website. So you have that power or professional capability, and I'll train you by the end of this slide that you can do that process and deregister those projects which are already lapsed or stalled.
So Karan, you mentioned, of course, like this is an extremely great opportunity because CAs also professional also they are stuck with RERA registration, the QPR compliances. They do not go further in the act also, which is regarding deregistration extension, and all the promoters, whenever it is deregistration extension, they are on the verge of very helpless situation. So
Yes, that is true. And I'll also tell you one thing, Shares, that you can only create a revenue when you have created a situation where he's stuck. You can,
exactly.
whatever amount you will ask, he'll give you, because he
Hmm.
needs to get his project deregistered. Otherwise, you won't be able to survive in the market. So that's why
Exactly.
at that time you can just ask him that this is my fees. I'll make sure that your project is deregistered. He'll give you any amount, whatever you can ask for him. That amount can go even beyond the registration fees, which we have
Exactly.
seen. So this is a good opportunity for all the professionals, and there are n number of cases. Even Prabhu sir himself, if started this process of deregistration, he won't be able to do it in the life. There are n number of cases in Maharashtra which requires deregistration. There are, you can see in the website, there are labs projects, there are stalled projects. The Maharashtra website is clearly mentioned. So I'll just say that this order is divided into three parts. The first part is the prerequisites. Why you have, if you are going for a deregistration, what are the requirements you have to fulfill? This is the first prerequisite. Second is submission of application, in which what is the application you have to fulfill, and third is filing of complaints. So filing of complaints is not like your project is registered and you're making a complaint to the Maharashtra authority that the builder is not given me the not executed the agreement to the other complaints. I'll tell you in the brief that when the project is deregistered, the Maharashtra first give 30 days and it publishes a list of projects which have came to him for the deregistration, and they ask all the stakeholders if there is any objection, you can give a mail to them that you have an objection with this particular project deregistration. So that is what filing of complaint. So objection by the stakeholders, by the LOTs or aggrieved person, what I will say, can be taken there in the third part. So first part is a prerequisites. The first part, two things they have clearly mentioned. The project has to have zero LOTs. Only those real estate projects which have zero LOTs, that is real estate projects where there are no bookings, shall be considered for deregistration. I'm not, see, they have clearly said in this that should be no bookings. Even you have taken the money and taken as an allotment, I have given an allotment letter to somebody, you will not be able to go with this subsection 1. Then the second is, provided that where a part of real estate project is sought to be deregistration, then there should be zero LOTs in that part of the real estate project. So this particular case is, what they are saying is, when you have 3 buildings, you have registered the project with the 3 buildings as a one project, but in among that 3 buildings, 2 buildings, you have seen that there are zero LOTs. That's not feasible for you to proceed further on. There is no progress also has been taken in those 2 buildings. You can apply for deregistration for those 2 buildings also with the process, and Maharashtra will give you the part deregistration for those 2 different phases in Maharashtra. And the third is provided further in that in the real estate project where there are bookings, application for registration shall be entered. subject to the right of such allottees being settled by promoter and documents in that record being submitted for verification. See, in this, the third and the fourth, they are dealing with the bookings. The first and the second, they are dealing with the zero allottees and zero bookings. The third and the fourth, they are saying that if you have a booking, you have to make sure there are two things which you have to keep in mind, and you have to communicate to this the builder that if you have a booking, there are two things which you have to satisfy. The first is that you have already been made all the transfer documents, like if either a cancel agreement, you have made him all the payment back with the interest, you have clear all his queries. Third is, if not, if you are not able to make him cancel, you have transferred the ownership rights to him. Everything you have done, this conveyance has been transferred to him, and you need minimum 2/3 of the consent. So if you remember that when I say 2/3, you mean 75%. You need to take 70% of the consent before applying for deregistration.
Karan, I'll just like to interrupt. 2/3 will be 67%, right?
67.
2/3 will be 67%.
Yeah.
Yes.
66.67%.
Yes. Yes.
You have to take 66.67% while applying for deregistration. So these two conditions have to be fulfilled. First, you have to make sure that the rights and all his duties have been transferred, all the documents are verified. The second is the 2/3 consent of the allottees have been taken.
Karan sir, one question. If you can go to the previous slide, yes. In the third point, if supposingly my project has 100 apartments and I have just sold 10 apartments, and in that I have received, all the 10 flats are of 1 crore each, and in each flat, let's assume I have received 50% of amount. Then I have to refund back all the 50% amount. That is one thing. Do I have to, like based on your experience, do I have to pay the interest also on that amount, or should we not pay the interest on that 50% of refund which you're doing?
So if you're doing a refund, if the person to whom you're making the refund, if he is giving you the consent or he is giving you a statement that he has no dues pending from his side, you can pay him the principal amount and clear it off. But he can raise a complaint in the while seeing the application that the interest is pending from the promoter. So that is much preferable. Whenever, see, the clause is clearly mentioned in the clause that the just
It is there that the subject to the rights of such
Okay.
allottees being settled by the promoter.
yeah. So all the rights of such allottees has been settled. So allottee right includes interest compensation
Right to
as per the
receive.
allotment letter you have given. So if you have any pendency pending from the allottee side, you have to pay him back. And if in case you feel that by paying him the principal amount, he is satisfied and he is giving you the consent that he has no objection with you in the future, then go for that and do that. But if in case he is an allottee in that project and he says that I'm ready to pay the remaining balance 50%, then you have to take the consent from him that you are applying for the deregistration.
Deregistration, of course.
So secondly, this is the procedural part in which you have to which they clearly define the process how you will apply for the deregistration. It's a simple process. You have to mail the documents to secretary at marera at maonline.gov.in. This is a specified email ID of chairman sir, secretary sir, and there are two annexures. Format of deregistration, annexure B, declaration come undertaking. Annexure B, you have to give it in an affidavit in 100 rupees stamp paper. The format A is a deregistration whole format in which why you are deregistration, why you are going for deregistration, what is the project details, what is the status of allottees, what are the details. The whole format is given. The third is the consent of allottees. If there are bookings, I've told if there are zero allottees, you won't be requiring any consent of the allottees. But if there is no, if there are bookings, you have to take 2/3 of the consent from the allottees. If you are going for deregistration process or if you are applying for the deregistration, I'll say memo of authorization, you have to place it there because you are the representative. It's basically a power of attorney you're giving to the authority that I'll be representing the promoter in this case. So you have to give the memo of authorization with the same application. After receipt of this application, Maharera team will scrutinize all the documents and they'll give you one particular date in which your hearing will be placed. And the chairman with the judges himself will come in that meeting. Chairman will ask you the questions and the queries if he has in the project. and if required, they can ask for allottees consent live. So they can ask that you have to bring the allottees to the meeting and ask them. So in my particular one case, they asked for an allottee. It was there were two allottees, and chairman sir was not of the view that we have taken the consent, or so he told us, he passed a judgment that in the next hearing, the promoter has to bring in the allottees with him, and we'll take a live recording of the allottees. So allottees were present with us, and they gave their consent live also. So it's purely discretion of the chairman, sir. But the process is very simple. There are only four forms you have to give: format of deregistration, declaration come undertaking, the consent, and the member of authorization. These are the four things.
Firstly, it is very simple. But deregistration as such, even Maharera takes into very strict, like very keen interest in that, because deregistration is something which they do not support as such, and that's why hearing takes place rather than normal registration. When there is no hearing as such, there are some legal teams and query team which is there. But in deregistration, the chairman himself takes the hearing and shows interest towards deregistration, why it is
True.
done. And now in your case also, in your exam also, they ask for the allottee also to be present.
True.
So it is not like you just apply for deregistration and you get it.
That's why I've said that member of authorization, you have to present it before, because you are going to appear for your client and the chairman will be in front of you asking you the questions.
Exactly.
He will be just bombarding you with the questions of the project. So be prepared with the project brief. Why you are applying for deregistration, your consent and everything documents have to be proper in line. See, consent of allotee is a very crucial part. They'll check it thoroughly. They may ask for cross verification also in future. So this has live they have done. They are already started taking email ID and mobile numbers also. So you have to make sure that your documentation part is purely perfect while applying there, because those papers will be on his table and while he will be asking the questions. There is also one more thing which I would also like to give you one feedback, that whenever you go for a hearing at the time of deregistration, you make sure that your internet mic and camera is on, or you make sure that they are working, because if at the time when they call your name and your video is not working, they'll make sure that you are not represented in that meeting. That's a provided guideline which has been given to them. So if your video is not working, if your audio is not working, they'll mark you absent in that meeting. So make sure these things, basic few things, have been done from your side also.
Of course, I think so. This is something which you're telling from experience, I feel.
Yeah, I have already been marked as absent in one of the hearing, but luckily I've got the next hearing in next 15 days. Otherwise, usually it takes 1.5 months for the next hearing.
Yeah.
Third part of this order is, if there is any aggrieved person, he may file a complaint in the matter of deregistration. Such complaint shall be heard after due notice to the promoter and decided by the authority. Terms and conditions as may be imposed by the authority. If there is any aggrieved person, if there is any allottee who wish that your project does not want to get deregistration, his rights may get violated, or his rights may get waived off. So he may file a complaint to the Marera that please don't deregistration. They'll again go for give you a hearing in which you and the aggrieved person will be there. And the aggrieved person will give his views that why he has filed a complaint and why your project is not required to get deregistration. So this is the third part which is there. Most of the things, see, as a consultant of your client, you can make sure that if there is any aggrieved person, you can call him and ask him why you have taken this decision, and you can try as much as possible within your practice circle. However, if you believe that your grounds are too strong, you can go for that thing also. But chances are very less, since Shreyas also said that they are not motivating much for deregistration. So if any single person is asking that you don't deregister the project, so there may be chances that your project won't be deregistered. So this is the all about deregistration. I'll say this is the most revenue item which I am right now having, because many projects I've done almost more than 50 projects deregistered. Especially almost 50% is 508 flats, which was done before July, and still we are applying for the projects who are less than 508, less than 8 units in for deregistration, and we are charging almost equal to or more than the registration amount. So I will also request others to read this circular, why this has been came, and the industry required this circular because there are many projects which now, since when the RERA came, they registered themselves, but since now they have been stalled or they have been waited out, so now they're going for the deregistration.
I think so. Karan, before we move ahead with the extension part, the second part of the topic, one question I would like to ask Aditya. Aditya, like if supposingly the deregistration is done, like for example, Karan said he has done more than 50 deregistration. Now, in that kind of scenario, the allottees who are part of the project, if supposing they feel violated or something, how are their rights protected even after deregistration is done? Aditya, you can first add in, and then Karan, even you can some add in some points. Ki, who are the allottees? If they feel suffer, how are their rights protected after deregistration also?
Yeah. As the Karan sir has mentioned that any aggrieved person may file a complaint, and in the complaint they can ask for the compensation from the promoter, or they can ask for the refund of the amount paid to the promoter with interest. Or in some special cases, they can even ask for the project to be transferred to another promoter for completion. So these are all the remedies the allottees have in case of deregistration.
The thing is that in which scenario you are saying about the deregistration. The first is like if the project is deregistered under 500 or 8 flats, that project, as per the circular, was not required to get registered. So allottees, if even if they are saying that their rights have been getting violated, so since the promoter does not require to get registered, he has not done. After the circular came, now he is applying for deregistration. There are chances very less that the allottees will have an issue with that. Whereas in other scenarios where I said that the second one which I said, the project is RERA, the RERA is applied in that project, and it is mandatory for him also, and there are allottees. So in that particular case, the allottees may take an action, even though if the project is deregistered with the 2/3 of consent of the allottees, and the promoter is not paid him back or anything, he can apply for what I'll say to the Maharaja authority that these things have been done by the promoter, and authorities may have to give them the answer because he was an allottee at the time of project was registered. And if he has given the consent at the time of deregistration that he was not having an objection, so chances of him getting the compensation is very less. So you have to make sure that he does not give the consent at the time of deregistration.
Just one thing I want to ask. You might be aware of source complaint that wherein the project is not registered, and at that point of time a complaint is raised, right? So if in this kind of scenario when the project is, for example, deregistered, let's assume that there are 12 allottees who are there, or 15 allottees who are there. Out of that, 2/3 consent comes to around 10 consent. They have taken the 10 allottees consent. They are compensated also, but the remaining 5 people, they are not compensated. They are not paid properly, or whatever has been done to them. So when they are filing a complaint to the authority, what do you feel? Will it be covered as a source complaint, or will it be covered as a normal complaint? Because now that it's deregistered, the project is not registered.
While applying for a complaint, we'll have to go as a new because the project is not there on
Exactly.
the records. We'll have to go for a new complaint and pass the same.
So it will be like a source complaint only.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
I'll just before going with the extension, there are few issues I can see in chat box also regarding deregistration. There is one question has been given that while deregistration, would RERA give opportunity of hearing to all parties, or would it be suo motu? So, sir, if you have given the consent in the form, you may not get any mails, but whereas if you have any issue as an allottee, you can write a mail to the authority that you have a complaint. The opportunity is already is given to the promoter because he has applied. So he is only the party in that particular application. So would deregistration include cancellation of registration? What would happen to the unfinished project? Rights of flat bower, government dues? Deregistration is not cancellation of registration. It is deregistering the registration. Cancellation of registration is dealt under section 7, that is revocation of registration. So both are two different things. I've already explained that for the unfinished project, rights of flat buyer and government dues have discussed that their consent will be taken place, and if they have any issue, they can file a complaint also, which we have discussed right now. If a project is in abeyance, how is it different from deregistration? Sir, abeyance is taken place because of non-filing and other issues, whereas deregistration is the promoter is not required or is willing to deregister the project because of delay in project. So both are two different scenarios. It cannot be mixed with each other. Abeyance is purely a different scenario in which the promoter has defaulted his own duties. So if you remember my slide in which I've given the brief about the sections in second slide, in which I said chapter 3, which is functions and duties of promoter. If the promoter is not doing that duties, his project will be kept in abeyance by the authority. So rights of allotee in case project which is kept in abeyance, which is partially completed. After the completion of project, do we need to deactivate the number? Is there any closure procedure for error number? You may get, sir, in the next. I'll ask Shreyas because this particular query is regarding completion of project, not deregistration of project.
Of
Deregistration
course.
will never happen at the time of completion. So I will. So this is particularly an issue which I have been asked by many of my professionals that, sir, our project is complete. We have received the OCs. We have filed the form 4, and now since everything is done, shall we go for deregistration? Whether it is a last stage. So this is not a last stage. This is a remedy given to the builder. It's not a completion.
Deregistration does not mean ki, your
Yeah.
project is completed. It is like a worst case scenario to save the project from
Yeah.
some problems or something like
Yeah.
that.
So there,
So
I believe
deregistration is
that
different and project completion is different.
so there may be a video or there may be the upcoming lectures in which the Shreyas will share you with
Yes,
the.
yes, yes. We have that completion of project as a separate lecture that we cover in the later session.
Would mail ID be shared? Thanks for your clarification. Okay, thank you so much. I'll go with my slide again. I believe you are able to see my slide. So we were now extension. This is the most I'll say have a grip on this section because this section is also very good in terms of revenue. And second, builder faces this issue very much once his project is has some financial issues after 2 to 4 years. See, real estate project which is covered under RERA is already a project which is infusing a lot of money in it. So your job is to make sure that the money of that builder don't get wasted. Even you have to make sure that the LOT's rights don't get hampered. So you are the mediator of both the parties. Extension and deregistration are two tools which you can give a service to the builder who will pay you for this thing, and both are the places where the builder is stuck. So this is a highly revenue item which I've already said. Section 6 is particularly when the registration is granted under Section 5, the authority may extend the registration due to force if there is a force majeure happen. Force majeure is always a case where war, flood, drought, fire, cyclone, earthquake, or any other calamity caused by nature. So even though the COVID was man-made nature, we don't know, but in COVID, the authority considered it as a force majeure and they have extended 1 year of all the projects. So we have, after implementing RERA, which is hardly a year, I'll say 6 years old baby, but he has seen this scenario in which they have to extend all the projects by 1 year because of force majeure.
So I wanted to ask you, for example, the force major like COVID, that will not be covered as an extension which is taken by the promoter themselves. It is a force major extension which is given by the authority, right? The 1 year extension beyond that is also available to them, right?
So see, Section 6, what does it say? The registration granted under Section 5 may be extended by the authority on an application made by promoter due to force majeure in such form and on payment of such fee as may be prescribed. So even though this section says that it is an application made by the promoter, but in force majeure, the authority can himself extend 1 year without applying for any application. So in COVID, they did the extension by themselves without suo moto, with the process of suo moto. There are also reasonable circumstances without default on the part of promoter based on the facts and reasons to be recorded in writing, extending the registration granted to a project for such time as it may consider necessary, which shall in aggregate not exceed a period of 1 year. So this particular section which says that if a promoter is having an issue with the project in which he has given a time of 2 years, but there are situations which have arisen. It can be a medical issue, it can be a shortage of labor, it can be a shortage of material in that particular area. There are n number of reasons which can happen, because of which he's not able to complete in those 2 years, and he needs only 1 year to complete the project. He can go for this section. This is the first section in which he will apply for the extension, and he'll be granting 1 year extension.
Yeah, so in this kind of extension of 1 year, there is no consent which is required, if I'm correct, right?
No, we don't require any consent in section 6. As
Okay.
such, there is no such. Section 7, that is revocation of registered projects. So there are scenarios in which the authorities revoke or cancel the registration, which was asked in the query also. That this is particularly a section which deals with cancellation of registration, or I will say the abeyance which you said also is covered under this. The authorities have the power to give the project, make the project under abeyance. And in particularly in section 7, there is subsection 3, which says the authority, instead of revoking, permit it to remain in force subject to such further terms and condition as it thinks fit to impose in the interest of allottees. So this is one which is very beautifully written in subsection 3, in which they says that authority has the power that instead of making the project cancelled and hampering the rights of everybody, we shall grant some time to the promoter, and he will make sure that the project is completed with the due time granted to him. So in respect of section 7.3, there are 2 orders have been came. I would request you that after the seminar, you read both these orders. Order number 7, 2019, order number 40, 2022. So the first one, that is order number 7, 2019, in which they have said that if you are going for section 7.3, you have to take the consent of the allottees. Consent, that is also majority consent of the allottees, that is more than 51%. Whereas in order number 40, before going to the order number 40, I'll give you one scenario which the builder is facing or may face, your client can also face, that your client has applied for a project which is 3 years, which has a completion timeline of 3 years. At the time of 3rd year, he has came to you that I want to extend my project by 2 more years. So give me a way in which I have to proceed further. In my project, there are 18 flats in which I have sold 15 flats to the people, and 3 flats are still unsold with me, but I am unable to complete in the next 2 years. So please grant me an extension of 2 years. Now, among those 15 flats, as per order number 7, 2019, I need minimum 51%, that is majority of votes. I'll go with say that I need 8 consent minimum with that. Now imagine with the situation from the LOT mindset. He has already paid him the amount for the flat. He has made an agreement to sell. He has financed that project. Do you really think that the interest part which he is paying to the bank, will he give the consent to the promoter that okay, you need time now, you take 2 more years? So do you really feel that he'll never give the consent to the builder that see, I need the proper compensation for the delayed in project and whatever the reasons may be, but the allottees will make sure that their rights and their money is not getting wasted on the project. So the builder was having an issue with some the builder has his own personal reasons in which, because of which he is not able to complete for the next 3 years. So authorities were facing issues in which they says that the allottees are not giving the consent to the promoter for extension because of their fight, and this whole scenario is going into the litigation, which will take another 5 to 10 years for them. So they came up with order number 40, 2022, in which they have came that even though if there is no consent, we will go with the process and will grant an extension to the builder with the explanatory note and why he is not able to complete it within the due given time. Circular number 28, 2001 is basically the format in which how you have to take the consent from the allottees in this extension format. So there is also one more thing which I like to tell you in this. While in deregistration, the consent format is given in that particular order itself. But whereas in this extension, the order circular is given separately for the consent which you have to take. So while applying for an extension or while applying for a deregistration, don't mix things. Don't give the format of this consent in that deregistration project, neither that consent in this extension. So you have to make sure that your team or you are taking the due diligence while applying for the deregistration. So as I said in the previous slide, that previous in the beginning itself, that the authorities to pass any order circular, they need power. The power they can get only through the section. Section 37 deals with that power, in which the authority may, for the purpose of discharging its function under the provisions, rules, under the provision of this act, or rules or regulations made thereunder, issue such direction from time to time to the promoter or allottee or agent. As the case may be, it may consider such direction shall be binding on all concerned. So this is why I have written this section is, if you see in this particular section, the authority has a power for all the three. For promoter, real estate agent, and allottee also. Allottees are also binded by this power by of the authority, in which if the authority says that you have to follow, you have to follow. The allottees will not be able to. So this is why, that is why I have shown you the section 37. This is the empowerment rule. It's the best way to learn this section is section 7.3 deals with the cases where extension is required and the project is going for revoke. Same rule 7 states all the process of extension extension. So rule 7, section 7 or section 6. These three are extension related provisions in MAREL. Rule 7.1 deals with the rules in which they have said that Form E has to be given while applying for the extension registration. 7.3 gives the prescribed fees payable by the promoter. The authority under Section 737 of the Act and Regulation 38 is vested with the power to issue direction from time to time as it may consider necessary. Order number 7 2019, this is the first scenario which the authority realized by themselves in Nilkaman Realtors Suburban Private Limited. Authorities observed this issue that there may be cases in which the extension will be required and we have not yet given any regulation regarding the same. So they came up with this particular order in which they said that in case a promoter establishes and authority is convinced that there were compelling circumstances, the promoter is failing to complete the project during the stipulated time, the authority shall have to examine and they will give the proper time, extended time to the builder. So in every case of extension, the authority will pre-assess the whole scenario. As same like in registration, your application goes through 4 days. Same will be in case of extension, your application will go through 4 days, legal, technical, financial, for getting you the extension certificate. In cases where the promoter of Marera registered project is unable to complete in the extended time of 1 year, further extension may be given only in those cases where the concerned association resolved that instead of revoking the registration, the existing promoter be permitted to complete the project in a specified time period and on payment of same fees as prescribed under rules. So if you just have a view on this particular para in which they says that if you're not able to complete the project under section 6, that is 1 year, which you have already been granted, you can get the further extension by getting the consent of Association of Allottees. This is order number 7 2019. So this is, if just have a preview back that I said, this order number 7 2019 says that you can extend the project with the consent of allottees. So if you're going for if you're going for extension and you have the consent, you can take the help of this order. Whereas if you don't have the consent and if you want to apply for extension, this is the order which you have to refer, that order number 40 2022, which was came in the December 2022, in which the authorities have realized some scenarios in which they felt themselves that there may be chances that the allottee won't be giving the consent to the promoter for extension. There were the three scenarios which they say is that because of these 3 issues, allottee may not give. But this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a given scenarios by them. This says that if the consent is granted, the complaint filed before the authority would be dismissed. There was one perception from the allottee's point of view. They also says that there may be a allottee who may be thinking that he will not get any relief in the complaint before the authority if he give the consent, and they don't have the confidence that since the promoter has not completed the project in that past given period, how he'll be able to complete the project in the next completing years. He may be just using our money in other project and completing the project. So they don't have that confidence level in the promoter. So there were three scenarios in which they came concerned with the promoter and also with the LOT. So they says that you can apply for extension if the consent is not given. So authorities have already says that if you want to go for an extension under section 7 subsection 3, you have two options. First, proceed with order number 7 2019. They said in the same order itself 40 2022 that this order is in compliance with order number 7 2019. This is not replacing the order number 7 2019. This is first you have to proceed with order number 2017 order number 7 2019, and if you are not able to comply, come again in this order in which they have given two things. First, promoter shall submit the consent as obtained from the LOT irrespective of the number of consent. You have to ask for the consent and you have to make sure 1, 2, 3, whatever the consent you are getting from the LOTs, you have to give it to the authority that we have applied for the consent from the LOTs and they have given only this much amount of percentage has been given. So why the required percentage of consent will not be obtained and why the application for extension should be considered without the required 51%. So promoters have to make sure that this is taken place. So first this says that you're not required to majority of votes, the promoter shall submit the consent, even though if there is one consent given by the authority. Second, they says that he has to give an explanatory note setting out the grounds and reasons for the delay in completion. So he has to give all his explanations, all his grounds while applying for the extension under this particular order in which he will give his with all the explanation, and he has to give with this the consent he has taken from the authorities, even though it is not satisfying the required percentage by the order number 7 2019. So these are the two conditions which they have to apply for this. Authority while consider after getting this application, they may think again, they may evaluate the process, they may ask the questions to the promoter, and after this whole they will apply, they can grant the extension to the promoter. So application for this extension shall be made in form E itself. Application of extension of validity of the project registration shall be accompanied while prescribed fees is same with as per the same. Consent of LOT shall be given as per format B, which I have already said that this is a different format. Deregistration is totally different. Don't mix it up. Promoter shall be bound by further terms and conditions. Grant of extension of project validity shall not affect the rights accrued in favor of LOTs. So granting registration will not affect any rights of the LOTs. And this is the last which I have said you in the previous also, and remember also this order shall be read along with order number 7 2019. This is the most important thing. This is not replacing 7 2019. First you have to apply with the 51% consent, and if you are unable to do it, you have to go with this order. But I believe that I have missed something, and that is the fees. What will be the fees for extension?
Yes, you are now coming to the most important part. I think so. Everyone is keen towards that only.
Applying for an extension is good because whenever the client, which is a promoter, when he'll come for you the extension, he'll say, "Bhai, paisa bata. Bhai, will be the amount of fees of Marera, or what will be the charges you will take?" Whenever you will have to give the brief overview. So fees for extension is given in the rules, and there clearly says that it is the same fee at the time of registration. In the conclusion, I am telling you, it will be the same fee which you will be having at the time of registration, plus the service charges which Marera has revised just recently, also 2 days back. So application of, if you just read I'll just read the proviso that application for extension shall be accompanied with fees calculated on the area of land proposed to be developed at the rate of 10 rupees per square meter. But there was also one circular came afterwards in which this says in case of plotted development, it will be 5 rupees per square meter. So it will be the same as extension of certificate. And also remember that while applying for extension, it will be same process for all the 4 desks will evaluate your application. So don't charge less than the registration because the whole process is same as registration. This is all which I have prepared for extension and deregistration. I'll share definitely.
So I think so. Yes, Karan sir, you have covered much more in depth than I think so. What the participants were also expecting. So thank you so much for this. Just before we end, there is one question I think so which few participants had asked that how many times can we take the extension? Like for example, if you take under section 6 1 year extension, then after maybe taking the consent is what everyone is giving. Then after that 2 years extension we took. Then after that again 2 years. Then after that again 2 years. How many times can we take? Is there any limit as such given by the authority?
So I'll ask you one thing, that giving the reply for this question, that see, as per section 6, only 1 year can be granted without the consent. So that is the section which is the right of a promoter if he can go for a 1 year extension. But in section 7.3 has to follow the due process, and the authority will evaluate the particular provisions and his application whether they will be granting this extension, whether granting this extension will be rightful for the allottees. So even if suppose if you have applied for extension for the first year for 1 year under section 6, then after coming to the 1 year you have said that I am not able to complete the project, I am going with section 7.3 and I'm going for the further extension in which 2 years will be, I'll apply for 2 years with by giving the proper explanation to the authority and taking the consent of allottees. And after those 2 years you are feeling that no, I am unable to complete that project now also, I'll apply for, authority will not give you. And as an allottee, I am telling you myself, I'm right now I filed a case with the promoter that he has taken extension for 3 years and not even a single compensation has been given to the allottee, and allottee is suffering a lot because 75% of the amount has been given to the promoter. So I have that right also as a allottee. The extension should not be granted to the promoter in the next further years. So if you're asking this question from the promoter wise, I would say that you can apply and you can take. But if you're applying from the allottee mindset, you always have that right to uphold the extension. On an average, how many times the promoters go for extension practically in Maharashtra? Hardly 2 times. First 1 year and then they go for the
Yes.
7.
Yes, yes, I think so. I think so. Yes, you have covered in depth the whole, extension and deregistration part. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you so much, Karan sir.
Thank you so
For
much.
always taking out time from your helping all the participants and helping everyone out. Even I want to give a vote of thanks to say Aditya Gautam, who took out his time, and this is the first time he is also attending a seminar as a faculty. So thank you so much for giving your time. And if there is any kind of questions, queries regarding deregistration as well as extension, you all can definitely contact Karan sir as well as Aditya sir. They will be more than welcome to, more than happy to attend to all the questions.
Always welcome.
Thank you so much once again,
Thank
Karan
you so
sir
much.
and Aditya sir.
Thank
We will
you so
definitely
much.
meet again
Thank you so much.
and looking forward to more of a session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, participants, for being with us and joining this course and taking active part. Similarly, the presenter who has taken enough pain to present the session today, panelists, and the participants who have made it very interactive. I request you, any questions are there, you can always email to us. My email address is rsprabhu13@gmail.com, and if you want, you can send the message on WhatsApp, which of course is in the description box. Still, you can take out the number 9820106766, and you can reach out to us anytime, and any new topic that you want to have a discussion on Prabhu Se Khas Baat or the courses physical or even on Zoom on any time on online, we will be very happy to organize that. You can be a presenter, you can be a faculty, you can be organizing part of the organizing committee, you can also learn. All these are open. The purpose is to empower every chartered accountant to enter into new area of practice, new area of profession, so that you are able to build your profession in a better way. Thank you very much.